Hey everybody, I'm your host, Allie. I'm so happy you're here. I want you to know that this podcast was designed to self-affirm and redefine all things you. The phrase I am has the power to define every part of you. Let's jump into this week's episode to discover your I am. Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast episode and another week. I am so excited that you guys have been connecting with the community here on season 3. There are so many good things that we're talking about. If you guys didn't see last week's episode, we had a special guest on named Serena. We did a new series called Happy Hour where we chatted for an hour and talked about all things life. So I am so happy to start this new week off with a new episode. Hello to all the YouTube lovers out there watching. As you can see, we are doing another episode of the Green Couch series where I sit on this velvet green couch here in my apartment and we just talk about life, motivation, community, engagement, and everything in between. So I'm excited about this week because we are talking about grind time and making this your time to shine. This week we're chatting about so many good things. Kind of last week we talked about dreams. We actually talked about a lot of things last week, but last week specifically, our podcast episode started out as something that we kind of connected and collabed with, all about dreams and how to make your dreams a reality. And what do we do if we feel like our dreams are too small or too big? And how do we kind of engage with that, right? So this week, we're going to kind of talk a little bit more in depth about that. So I titled this episode Grind Time because I feel in my heart that this is a season. And if you're listening and you're like, I needed a hint or I needed a sign or something, I'm hoping that this can be your sign of this is your time to grind it out. We are here in this podcast as your community to cheer you on and make sure you know that this is your time to shine, right? So when I think of the word or the phrase grind time, right? It's like keep your head down, work hard, grind it out until whatever you're trying to grind to is fulfilled, right? I don't think, though, it needs to be that intense. I think it can be a phrase that encourages us as, okay, this is a season that I'm going to really be serious and like speak out my dreams. And this is a season where I'm going to really think about what I've wanted to do and what's important to me and actually put steps forward to execute that out, right? So we're going to talk in this week's episode a little bit about what are those dreams that maybe you thought about last week in last week's episode, and how are we going to like grind it out and make that a reality in this week's episode, right? Okay, so let's dive into a little bit of grind time. So like I had said before, grind time can be this really cool, intense season where you're like, I'm just going to go for it and I'm going to put myself out there. But it can also be that season where you're like, okay, I'm just done talking all the time about it. I'm going to just put a step forward into that direction and see what comes up, right? And that can be exciting. It can be bold. It can be scary. It can definitely be fearful. But I think at the end of the day, if you truthfully have a dream that you feel passionate about and you feel like, okay, this is an idea that's been on my heart, it can be such like a liberating thing to really truthfully dive into that, right? And so I want you guys to know that on this podcast, we've created a community here that we want to cheer you on, and we want to be your biggest cheerleader and whatever, is near and dear to your heart. And for me, I can share a little bit about this brand and the company that I've created. I've definitely been in seasons of grind time. I'm currently in one actually right now as I'm kind of rebirthing, where do I want this brand to go and how do I want it to grow, right? And so for me, I think I can be the first to tell you that I'm currently in a grind time season. I'm working a full-time job. I'm adapting to a new place that I just moved to. And I still have these dreams that I would love to grow and add on to this brand that I've already made years past, right? I made this brand before I ever graduated college, before I ever had the job that I'm at now, before I was ever in my own place, right? I created it in an entire different season. However, it's really cool to kind of see how you can recreate something that you've already made, and you can, in air quotes, grind it out in that way. So for example, I created I Am Lifestyle in a total different season of my life, in a total different mindset, age, everything, right? I'm still working on it though as a brand, and I'm still loving it and learning with it. But I'm now in a season where I'm like, okay, what are we going to do different? how are we going to switch it up a little bit? How am I personally going to grow as an owner and share that with all of you guys? And how am I going to grow this community? How do you redefine kind of what you've already made and create it in a new way that's never been created before? That can be kind of scary. It can be a little overwhelming, right? And so I wanted through this episode kind of chat with you about how this season can actually be a really motivating season for you. I really believe that you personally have spoken a dream over yourself that maybe you thought was too courageous, too bold, too much, and that you're fearful in that, and no one's ever told you that, hey, it's your time to actually start pursuing that, right? I want to be that person that's telling you right now that it's your time to pursue that. And I don't mean by pursuing that you're going to quit your 9-to-5 or, fully move into a new spot or, basically ignore the life you've already made and that you're living and create something new. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I think tomorrow when you wake up, you can make a mental switch to, awesome, I'm going to start speaking this dream out. I'm going to start visualizing this dream in my life as a reality already, right? We can take those small steps to really make a big execution later. I think a lot of times we get so overwhelmed by our dreams because we think, oh, I've got to do it now. And if it doesn't work out in the next year, then it's never going to work out. I think actually, though, the really cool thing about dreams and your passions, is that even in a season of life where you maybe dreamed that up years ago, it can come back if that's truly your purpose, right? And that just goes to show the importance of it, that it has actually in your life, and maybe the importance that you're going to be as a presence in that dream for somebody else. Okay, so for me, I've always been somebody that's loved to create. I've always been a creator in whatever way that looks like for me. And I think that was instilled in me when I was young. Like when I was in high school, I had started a fashion blog, and that was something that never once did I ever think would lead to me actually owning my own clothing brand, that then would lead to me writing a book and owning a lifestyle brand and, owning basically a motivational platform, right? Never once would I ever think that would lead into that. But I think that initial understanding that I'm a creator and that initial passion of I love creating communities with people. I love people and I love to create, made me who I am today and made me the business owner that I am today, right? So let's kind of break that down. So if we're thinking about you personally and you have a passion for, you can fill in the blank, like whatever you want. A passion, let's say, for example, you really love, let's dive into music, okay? Say you really love music and you just love to sing and you love to create in that way, you love to perform, you love high energy environments, things like that, right? And that might have been instilled in you when you were young. You've always been somebody that's, been like a fan favorite or a class clown. You've always been a lead in the play. Like you've never been afraid to be out and present in like a big presence, right? You've never been afraid of an audience. You've always been true to who you are. You've always been like a bold personality, right? Things like that. Okay. So that could have been you when you were really young. And then that though, because that's who you are and that made an impression on you into who you are now, it grows with you. And maybe then, you develop the love for the arts and you're like, okay, I want to take my bold personality that I was born with, and I want to take my love for performing and creating and, just being like an imaginary kind of person. I want to put that out into the crowd and I want to build off of that. So then you start to get really into the arts, right? And then as you grow, you start to figure out more things that are important to you. And you're like, how can I add this now into my love for music? So we gradually are growing. We're gradually learning things about us and who we are and kind of what fits with us and what doesn't, right? I'm constantly learning about things that I love and things that I'm not really great at, things that I don't enjoy, right? I will be the first to tell somebody that I'm like, not really a morning person. Do I love creating new memories? Sure. So would I wake up and go on an epic hike? Yes, I would love to do that. But would I just wake up early in the morning to wake up early in the morning? Probably not. And that's okay. Like I'm the first to tell somebody like, these are the things I'm really good at. These are the things I'm not really good at. I am currently working a job in marketing, right? I love marketing. I love, promoting new things. I love creating new things, coming up with new ideas. I don't really like executing it though, right? That's why I would never thrive at event planning. I am not super detail oriented. I am somebody that would love to create the product, but not necessarily sell it, right? That's my strong suits. I am a fast-paced mindset. I'm somebody that's like got 1,000 ideas all at once, writes them down, and then we're moving on to the next. And so for me, knowing that, I'm able to really pick my steps accordingly to that. I'm able to create dreams according to that. And so I honestly am very, very grateful for just that realization and that understanding of, awesome, this is who I am. This is what I'm good at. These are how I'm going to pick dreams according to that, right? So that's when we get back into that season of grind time. It doesn't need to be this scary thing. You can just say, oh my gosh, awesome. I'm going to grind it out in this way. I'm going to really like put more energy into this. I am going to allow myself to maybe grow in this way and push myself a little bit further in this way, set myself up in environments that would allow me to thrive in this way, right? It's just understanding where you're at, what you're good at, and how we're going to be better. That's what this whole podcast is all about. It's just realizing that, hey, I just want to be better. I just want to grow. I just want to be a better person than I was yesterday. And that comes full circle of understanding who I am, what I'm good at, who I want to be, where I'm going. Those key things, right? And we let so many other things in the world get in the way of that. And friends, that gets very loud. That gets very crowded. And I'm the first to tell you that I don't know in my life right now if I have space to prioritize more things that bring an overwhelming presence, right? So I can understand full-heartedly that grind time season might seem really intimidating because you're like, I'm not in a season right now where I can barely pick my head up. So how would you expect me to grind it out, right? Let's just like totally take away the word grind. Let's fully redefine the word grind. Let's bring in more names of pushing ourselves, seeing ourselves in a new light, calling ourselves out for who we truly are, calling ourselves out for people and things that we want to be, right? So we're not talking about, oh, this intense season of grinding and all of that. It's, oh my gosh, I'm in a season of rebirth. I'm in a season of learning. I'm in a season of growing. I'm in a season of redefinition. And I'm in a season of keeping myself at a really like high level expectation. I think that's another thing we should dive into is, where do we hold ourselves accountable? Do we allow ourselves to kind of, sign up, for example, for a marathon and then never run or train? Or do we allow ourselves to get a speaking role at a job or a presentation, but never actually public speak and never actually put ourselves in environments to pitch an idea or pitch ourselves, right? It's time that we stop saying we want to be one thing, but never actually allowing ourselves to be that. Ooh, I felt that. That was deep. We need to stop saying that we're going to be something that we're not. And we need to also allow ourselves to say, this is something I think I can become. Awesome. Where can I put myself in environments that allow me to blossom into that, right? And that goes with realizing, all right, this is the direction I want to go. This is the speed that I want to be at when I'm in that direction, right? We talked a couple weeks ago about pacing. Pacing is super important into that grind time that we call this season of life right now. Your grind time might look a lot different than other people, right? It might just be, hey, I want to wake up 30 minutes earlier than I always do because I want to prioritize myself at the beginning of the day and I want to get things done because by the time I get home from work, I'm tired and I know that I'm not going to prioritize myself, but that's still important to me, right? So if we know that pace doesn't need to look like a sprint, friends. It can just be a jog. It can be taking your walk that you're at right now into just a jog. Or, if you're jogging right now, it can just be, hey, I'm going to like pick up the pace a little bit. I don't know if any of you guys have ever like trained for anything or gone for like, if, for example, if you're running and you're trying to improve your mile time, anything even like a second better than the time that you've run before is immense growth. Is immense strength in your body, is like a full sign of stronger lungs, right? Stronger legs. It's your body honestly showing a pure form of endurance, right? So I don't know why we expect ourselves to really pivot into this speed that realistically our bodies wouldn't even be able to keep up with, right? If we're striving to just be 1 second faster, why are we then making our dreams this like monumental 5 minutes faster speed? We need to really fully understand that that 1 second is super important, because that 1 second is going to turn into that 5 minutes in your future. But if you don't focus on that 1 second and you're always striving for those 5 minutes, you will never get there, because your body will never be strong enough to get there. Your mind will never mentally be there. And I think that's so important when we're talking about just these dreams that we have and how we're actually going to hold ourselves accountable for that, because we need to realize like who we are in our lives, who we are as people, and where we're really at. I've personally been in seasons of my life where I just can't be everything. I can't be everywhere. I can't be everybody's everything. It's too much. I've been spread very thin. It's, a learning process for me. I'm figuring out things as I go, and I've had to take a step back in seasons of life and, not be fully a part of everything, right? And that's created conflict with people, and it's let people down. But at a certain point, I've had to prioritize things in my life that were important to me at one point. And sometimes that one thing that's important to me is myself. And I know for me that if I'm not getting enough rest, if I'm not, doing things that help me physically and mentally, then I'm never going to show up for those things that actually matter. And friends, that's not something that we need to, explain on a microphone in front of an audience. It's just something that we mentally need to be aware of who we are and, how we show up in different roles. I know sometimes I struggled even relationally, because I'm like, gosh, I'm so exhausted of giving, right? And we get into these roles where you're like, I'm just so tired. I don't think I can give anymore to people, like emotionally, physically, relationally, all of those things. It's a lot. And I think that's a relatable thing. I think that's a vulnerable thing to say, because we never like to pitch that we're tired. I think everyone always likes to act like, oh my gosh, I'm a full speed person and we're always going for it and we're always on it. And I don't think anyone ever glorifies that time when we're alone and we're just tired, right? I've been there. I think a lot of people listening have been there. And I think sometimes when you sit in that, it can be lonely. Unless we become aware to, hey, I'm doing the best that I can do. I'm actually being really awesome and consciously thinking about what I want to do next. A lot of times people get so stuck. They don't even think about what's next for them. They just keep going and going and going, and then they keep running and they get tired because there's no pace. It's just running. We also, friends, were never born to do that. We were born to take a breather and walk. We were born to look up and look around and be in awe of the beauty that we're in. It's okay to take a breather. It's okay to reflect. It's okay also to just sit and listen. It's another thing to also be okay with not knowing what to say. Gosh, I've been in so many different environments where I'm like, I have no idea how to give feedback in this. So I'm going to listen first. And I'm going to let things come into my heart that might allow me to engage, right? But I'm in no way going to make up something just to say because I feel like I need to say something. I think there's a lot of power in being in a space that's quiet, that is, I guess you could say the word lonely, but I don't like the word lonely. Independent. To just be in a space that's just you is a powerful thing. I love being with me. I love spending time with myself. I have fully been in love with living life on my own and being in my own presence and realizing, oh my gosh, I just learned this for the first time. Or, man, that was a mistake. Now I know, right? I think those are such cool things to realize and to kind of live life with. And I think if we sit in that, it allows us to create intentionality behind it. That circles back into the whole, okay, my season of life right now needs to pick up the pace a little bit because I have X, Y, and Z that I really want to get done. Awesome. We applaud you in that. Way to be a visionary person, way to speak out what you want to do. It is so hard to formulate this is what I want to do next. So tough. We always say, I want to just be successful. I just want to be happy, right? And we never paint a picture of how we're actually going to do that, or how that's actually going to feel, or what we're going to be in that role when that happens. Like, what does happiness mean to you? What does success mean to you? Because if you don't have full goals of, I want to be successful in this, doing this, being this person, right? Then how would we even achieve success? I think that's something that is so important in today's day and age, because we love to throw out, I'm feeling so unhappy, so I'm just going to do this. I'm feeling so alone, so I'm just going to surround myself with this. I feel so low, so I'm going to fill myself back up with this. And friends, it's a void that we're filling, because we don't have that idea of who we want to be, when we want to be that person, and what that even looks like. I encourage you guys who are listening to sit for a second with yourself and envision yourself and where you want to be, not necessarily in 5 years, but maybe a year, maybe in 6 months. What are you wearing? Where are you at? Are you smiling? Are you fully relaxed? What does that feel like? Who's around you? Are you by yourself? Are you driving? Are you sitting down? What job are you working? What friends do you have in your life at that moment? Do you have a place that you call home? Do you have someone in your life that you could call and engage with in that season? Right? Let's envision that. Let's really think about that, because I think that's powerful. When we say, hey, I want to be this, think of yourself in that state already. Envision it. I know sometimes for me, so I'm training for a marathon and I'm going to be running it in May. Every time I run, I close my eyes before I'm about to finish my run. So when I'm most tired and I most just want to give up and walk, I close my eyes and I envision myself finishing that marathon. And I say, don't ever give up. Don't stop. Because when you're running that marathon, you're not just going to stop right before the finish line, right? And that's embedded in my brain. So when I run that marathon in May, I would have already done it. Whether or not I finished, I would have already finished that marathon, right? What a powerful tool. Guys, our brain is so powerful. We have to know when to tap into that power. Friends, I could go on and on about this. I want to kind of leave it here, because I think we can dive more into this into a separate podcast episode that maybe we can jump back into next week. I encourage you, though, this week, guys, to genuinely spend time with yourself. Maybe journal how that feels, right? I want you to talk about dreams that you have, maybe 1 or 2, that you want to accomplish in the next year. Think about what you feel like and look like in that state. I want you to define grind time for you. I want you to define what that means to you, what that looks like to you, and how that would actually be something in your life. And start it tomorrow. Start that grind season tomorrow. Comment below, guys, if this helped you out. Let me know if I can support you in any way in your season of grinding it out. We cheer you on, guys. It's going to be an amazing week. I'm so stoked you are here, and we will catch back up next week with another episode. Alrighty, that was so much fun. But before you leave, if you want to leave us a review, please leave a comment and click the like button on whatever platform you're listening to. If this episode empowered or encouraged you in any way, share it with a friend. I'll see you back here next week with another episode. Have the best week ever.